So at this stage, I don't know how many parties they had in Downing Street at this stage. It must be like literally it's more like there's more parties there than there would be in Cool Kids or something like that in this country, or in the nightclubs or things like that. And this is the best thing. These are the people who are making the rules and they're breaking every one of them themselves. So and then if we do it, we get battered by the police around the place. We get be sentenced to prison, fined, called every name under the sun. Um, and then these people do it. Boris Johnson, doing it like partying away, not a fuck given about anybody or whoever or anybody thinks. And then he comes out and says sorry, and sorry doesn't cut it. Let's be honest, sorry doesn't cut it. And people, only citizens, only members of the British public, wouldn't give him the say sorry. They were fined and just some of them imprisoned for breaking COVID restrictions. And again, at the end of the day, these are the people making the rules and they're not following their own rules, and above all else, they're breaking their own rules. So they're speaking out the two maps. But here, this is the next part here, I mean to say. And again, this just shows, too, that, he didn't really have much respect for his staff and down the street, obviously. When Prince Philip died, obviously the Queen's husband, obviously national time of mourning in the United Kingdom, and throughout the Commonwealth, too. On his death, obviously, because the Queen's husband. But yeah, they had a party the night before the funeral. Like, just tells you everything you need to know. It really just tells you that they couldn't give a damn about anybody else. Like, I just say that. Just says that. Excuse me. But yeah, the Queen should come up in the morning and say Boris Johnson should go up to Downing Street tomorrow and stop beating around the place. But yeah. Let's be fair now. How many parties has there been? Like, we're talking about golf and things like that. Like, in this country, they couldn't give a shit about us either. The politicians and the senior civil servants and things. They couldn't give a shit about us in this country. It's the same in every country now. Very few countries that care about the people. We're just a number to them. We're just a number, and we're just there to pay their wages, and we're just there when the election comes to vote them in. And apart from that, they couldn't give a shit about us. We could all die in the morning. They wouldn't care less. As long as they got in the election, as long as they got the paycheck, that's all they care about, and have the cheese and wine in the United Kingdom. That's all they care about, in Parliament. But yeah, isn't Boris Johnson just great? Isn't he great? The same as the British Parliament, and the same with the civil servants in Westminster. Oh, having parties, like I can't count how many parties. Whatever about here, like every day of the week they're having a party over here. You never hear about it in Dáil and things like that, Shannon and everything. They have big parties. Don't worry about that. And nothing's been said about it, and the media won't go looking for it. And especially now, and this is the next bit, every Friday is that bring your own wine. Bring your own wine and have a party on a Friday. Like, you can't be have a straight face. You couldn't say it with a straight face. That they actually, like, it was done every week, more or less, saying it was going every week. And it was encouraged by Boris Johnson. And it was going every week, and everybody else was in lockdown. Like, who's the bigger fool here? Like, is it us or is it them? Because I think it's the public who's the bigger fool for following what they have to say and listening to them. And then they fucking break every one of the rules they say themselves. Like, again, this is the biggest hypocritical thing you can ever do. But that's what politicians are nowadays, just hypocritical. Self-serving, that's all it is. It's just with the gravy train. But yeah, it's a mess, but it's happening over here too, and it's probably happening more frequently over here. But yeah, Boris Johnson's the one just get caught. But yeah, the press over there at least a bit more fairer than over here. You don't see RT going up to Dáil to try and figure out if they're having parties or anything. Not a word from RT, not a peep, not a whisper. Because RT themselves broke the rules they say every night. So great country, and also the state-controlled media, radio, television. Government funded, don't you know? So not likely they're going to grass out their overseers